All right, so let's get started at the beginning. Number one, let's find our steering wheel, our dashboard. Now remember, we've got a choice here. We've got the right-hand drive, which would be the European style, or the left-hand drive, which would be the American style. So depending on which one you want to build, I'm going to do mine as the American style. So I need C2, and then looks like we also need part E11 and B14. So we got B11, E11, B14, and C2. All right. Letter B, sprue B. There you see it. All right, and then we're looking for part number 11. That's our steering wheel. Now remember I told you about these nippers. They've got a flat side, and then they've got an angled side. So this is our flat side, and we want that part against the part that we're going to cut free. So we get it against the wheel there, and then we give a little squeeze and snip. All right, and then I like, because I'm right-handed, I always keep the parts in my left hand so that the back of my blades are always against the part. All right, so there's snip number 2. All right, and then if you see, all right, let me see if I can get this in focus for you. All right, see there's a little bit of plastic right there on that edge. And there's a little bit on this edge. We're going to take care of that with a sanding stick. Now, your sanding sticks are going to look different than mine. So let me zoom back out a little bit here. All right. This is one of them that I use. This is 400 grit. I need to wash it soon. But we're just going to take where that little extra bit of plastic is that we don't really want it. We're just going to sand it. Give it a little rub down and kind of, rotate the sanding stick back and forth because you don't want a flat spot. You want to keep that steering wheel rounded. All right. And we're just going to sand that off till we get the shape that we want. All right. We're going to lose that little bit. And do it on the other side here. And you can feel with your finger, you can feel if there's any material left that you still need to remove. It should all be fairly smooth now. So that piece is ready. Let's get our other pieces. All right, that was B. Oh, we need B14 on here, don't we? Here's B14 down here. I'm not really sure what that is. I have a feeling that maybe it's a gauge that sits on top of the steer. Okay, here, let me show you something on this before I cut it off. Let me zoom back in again. Okay, I'm going to use my tweezers as a pointing tool here. All right, so this round piece, this is 14. That's what we want. And if you look, there's a little bit like right here, okay? And then the attachment of the sprue is down here. So you see how there's a little bit of a difference between this part and this part? So right there in the middle between those, that's where we want to cut it off. Because this part of it is more than likely that's going to be sticking into our steering column. That's how we're going to attach it to the steering column, that little leg right there. So make sure when you cut it, use your nippers, that you're not all the way against the rounded part. You want to leave a little bit of that post on there, okay? So just like that. And then now you can see we've got that post. Whoops. All right. So there it is. Okay. So we've got those two off of our B sprue. And then we need, what was it? Okay, here it is. This is our E sprue. All right, let me zoom back out again. Sorry. Okay, so here we've got E. and we're looking for E11. All right, this is the steering column. This has our turn signals and I would guess one of those is probably for the windshield washer fluid. All right, and always look at it closely to see where you're going to cut it free. So on the back side, it's got this straight piece, but you can see we're going to cut right next to that. And then these skinny pieces, these come right to the edge of the part that we want. So we're going to snip that one. And then if your fingers are big enough, hold the part with 2 fingers, finger and a thumb like this. And then when you snip this last piece, it'll keep the part from flying away from you. All right, so we've got it in our fingers. And now again, like we did on the steering wheel, okay, so this round piece, not so big an issue because it just had that one attachment point, and that's going to go into this hole right here. All right. So we don't have to do any cleanup really on it. But here on the control column, you'll see we've got a little bit on this side and a little bit on this side that we need to sand down where it was attached. All right, so we're going to get our sanding stick back out, and we're going to give that a quick little file, smooth it off. All right, and take a little more off of that one. And not too much, all right, just enough to get rid of that little bump. This one probably isn't even as heavy as that one was. Yep. All right, so now that part is cleaned up. Yeah, we might as well do this back piece too. Although I don't think this back portion, I don't think you're going to see that at all. All right, so now let's get our dashboards. Okay, now you'll see, so if you're sitting in your driver's seat and you're looking out the front windshield, this is the right side of the car, this is the left. On this one, the steering wheel is over here, and there's your glove box. On this one, the steering wheel is over here, and here's your glove box. Now, here in the United States, this would be ours. If you lived in England or one of the European countries, you probably have this one where the steering wheel's on the other side. And that's your choice. If you want to build yours that way, Eli, you go right ahead. I'm going to do mine with the American version, so we're going to cut this one free. Again, flat side of our nippers against the part. It just leaves very little cleanup that we have to worry about. All right, and this one's only got 2 attachment points. All right, so there, that one's free. And we'll take a quick look at it and see if we need to clean those up. Just a touch, just a little bit. Take off just that little bit of plastic on the edge where it was attached. Smooth it out. That feels pretty good. All right, we'll do it to both sides here. All right, so there we've got that. Now, let's go back to our instructions and take a look at what we're doing paint-wise with this, all right? Okay, before we get too far with any glue, let's look at it again. All right, so this is telling us some colors here. Now remember, the legend that we had when we first looked at this, all right, we've got, yep, okay, here we go. We've got our paints were the black squares, remember? All right, so this one is telling us the steering wheel, we need black 33, whatever that is. All right, 33 is flat black. So we're going to need flat black for the steering wheel. What else do we see? Okay, the steering column is also going to be flat black. All right, and now the dashboard, let's see what it's telling us here. So we've got a lot of things going on here color-wise. So it looks like, all right, here's our 33, which is our flat black, right? And it's pointing to the center of these air conditioning outlets, air conditioning and heating outlets, right? So the centers of those are going to be flat black. And where else do we see 30? Here's 33 up here. And it's pointing, it's got 3 points here. One is this whole upper portion. Another arm comes down this little dot right here in the middle. Let's see if we can identify that. Okay. So I think what it's pointing to is, yeah, right here on the top of the dash, that little button right there. Okay. And then where else? Okay, down here, the bottom, these buttons here on this console, whatever that is. Okay. So the button on the top of this, the buttons on the front, and then the whole top portion of this dashboard. And then let's look at what other colors we're seeing here. So we've got 8 and 1. And here we've got a mixture of 8 and 61. All right, so that's giving us a color for these trim rings right here. And then 28. All right, 28 is going to be, ooh, wow, that's going to be hard to paint. Let's see. It must be just this bit right in between, right? So you got the upper portion of the dashboard. You've got your glove box here, and this area in between is going to be color number 28, whatever that one is. We'll look at it here in a moment. And then we've also got 8. There's a button here that's going to be 8. And then a button. Now this is showing the European version, but they're interchangeable, so we'll just flip-flop. So our glove box is over here. But here it is here, and it's pointing to 8 for the button that opens our glove box. And then we also see these round circular callouts, and those are decals. So here's some kind of an instrumentation, number 21, and then number 19. So 21 will go here, and then 19 is probably... Well, I don't know. Maybe it does go, maybe it goes here. Not real sure yet. We'll have to, oh, you know what? I bet it's on this little thing right here. Yeah, I'll bet 19 goes right there. Okay, so now we got to think about this. What's the easiest way to paint these? Because we're going to have all those different colors. But what I'm thinking is, since the majority of this is all going to be painted 33, we'll go ahead and paint it 33, and then the other colors will go in later after that's dry, and we'll put those colors into it. All right? All right, so let's put glue on plastic for the first time. All right, so this is my glue. It looks a little bit different than yours, but it works the same way. So we know that the steering wheel goes on the steering column, right? And our instructions show that this is the direction that the steering wheel should be in. So the one post at the bottom, and then the other 2 posts going across. All right, and then this is the top of our steering column. So it goes together something like that. All right, so we're gonna take our glue. And we're just going to brush a little bit right around this, because that's what the steering wheel is going to sit on. See the back of the steering wheel has that kind of a hole, and it fits around this circular portion of it. So let's get it oriented in the right direction. All right, we got it on there. Make sure it's all straight and level. Just give it a little push for a moment. And if you want, you can even set it upside down. All right. Now that glue is already holding that. Not tightly. It's not completely dry, but it's holding it on there. All right. So now we've got this little guy, and it needs to go down in that little hole on the top. All right. And if you look close at this hole, let me see. Let me zoom back in here again. see how the back side of this hole is actually kind of flat? All right, it's rounded, and then on this back side it's flat. Let's take a look at this piece and see if it's got a matching shape to it. Now, I'm not so sure that it does. Well, you know, it kind of does, but I think I need to clean it up a little bit. When I first cut it off, I didn't think I was going to need to, but it looks like I've got a little bit of extra plastic there that shouldn't be there. So we're just going to run that across the back edge and make that flat spot. All right. That's close. We need to add just a little bit more. Okay. Now let's come back out and see if we can make this fit without forcing it. You don't want to break anything. All right. This is where having your small fingers is an advantage, because my fingers are big and fat and have a hard time holding these little parts. But, see, that's why a lot of times I'll use tweezers for stuff like this. All right, and make sure you get it rotated in the right way. So you've got this dish portion of it needs to face the driver. And there we go. It's in the hole. It sits in there just fine. What we're going to do is we're going to take the glue, take our brush, wipe most of it off on the side of the jar, and just at the bottom of this where it goes in, just touch that. All right, that little bit of glue will find its way down in there, and it'll glue all that together. All right, make sure we're straight. All right, I might need to hit that one more time with just a little bit more. All right, so now we can take this whole piece and see the slot. That's where this piece in the back is going to fit, right in there like that. See, and now that round piece fits closer into the dashboard. So that makes that photo of the decal make sense, right? So now we've got that gauge back there. And what I'm going to do, so that you try to get your glue so it's not visible. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on the back side where that pokes through, and that's where we're going to put our glue. So just a little brush on either side of it. And now that part is all glued together. While the glue is drying on our dashboard parts, let's look at the next portion of these instructions. Here's our seats, our front seats. There's a front portion and a back side to those seats that need to be glued together. So let's find those. We're looking for B6, B5, 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 B6, and then C6 and C7. So find the B sprue and the C sprue. Okay, it's pretty obvious which is which. Here's our B sprue, and here's the front of our seats. Right, this one is 5, and this one is 6. We'll get our nippers again. And this one, you can cut it at the bottom side here. So, against the part, against the part. All right, now you'll see they're kind of loose. You might be tempted to try to just twist that off and break it off. But sometimes that'll damage the plastic where it's attached. And you don't want to damage something that you're going to see. So don't try to resist the urge to twist off a piece even though it's loose. All right. So then we'll come to the top here and look at where it's attached. You don't want to cut the wrong part. All right. So there's that one is free. And then this one is free. All right. And then our C mold, our C sprue, C. Here's our seat backs. Looks kind of weird, doesn't it? So, again, close to the part, close to the part. All right, and then this one. So this is the visible side of it. This is the inside, so it'll go against the seat front like that. Okay. So we're gonna cut right here. There's one. And right here, there's two. All right, so we got our seats. But let's look at this. Is that really how it's supposed to look? Let's look at the instructions here. All right, I see something on these that doesn't quite look the same. And you see it too. What are these little ears on either side of the headrest? That doesn't look right. Our pictures don't show that. And then even on these back sides, there's a little something on each side, and that's not on these. So this portion of it is, but this little knob on the side, that shouldn't be there. So we're going to cut that away too. And let's do it with our nippers. All right, so right up next to the headrest, knock that one off. And then we'll knock this one off on both seats. All right, and then our seat backs. All right, so this bigger portion, we want that. So we just want to take off this little, I don't know, knob. We'll call it a knob. We don't want that. All right. And then I want to show you one more thing while we got it in our hand. All right. Okay. See right here, this little bit of plastic on the side? That's called flash. And it is plastic. What happens is when these parts are molded, there's two halves of a mold that come together, and then hot liquid plastic gets pumped into the halves to fill the void, which is this part. All right. So let me back that up. You probably didn't see a darn thing I just did. Okay. So when we make our parts, there's two halves of a mold that come together, and in that mold there's a space that looks like this or any part. All right, that space gets filled with plastic, liquid melted plastic gets pumped in, and it fills those spaces. And when the mold comes apart, well, that's how you end up with a sprue like this. See, all these, that's where that liquid plastic was pumped in and then filled these spaces. So these are channels in the mold. And that's what holds everything together when it comes out of the mold. But sometimes those molds aren't tight together like they're supposed to be, or they wear out, and there's just a little bit of a gap between them. Well, that's what causes this flash. Where was it? I gotta find it. Oh, here we go. All right, so that's what causes this. It's a little bit of the plastic that seeps out along the edge where it's not supposed to be. And not a big deal. We're just going to, again, take our file and file that off. Or you might even, if it's a stubborn one, you might need to use the edge of your hobby knife, right? Now be careful when you're doing this because you don't want to cut yourself, all right? But we got some cleanup to do anyway with the sanding stick. So let's take a look. Here's an attachment point that's a little bit raised, a little proud of the surface. So we'll sand that down so it disappears, right? Okay, a little bit. That's good. Let's check the other spots. All right, here's where that knob was attached to it. We got a little bit on there. I'm going to use my knife and come right along the edge and cut off that little excess that we don't want. All right, and then we can hit it with the sander one more time and make sure it's nice and clean. All right, so that part is done. And we'll do this with all of our pieces here. All right, now this little pin, see these little pins on the back side? Those need to be there because those will line up with these holes in the back of our seat. All right, that's how, well, it goes in this one. That's how it all goes together when you glue it. All right, so it'll look something like that when it's glued. But let's get these pieces cleaned up and then we'll add glue. Okay, we've got our pieces sanded off all those little edges that we don't want. All right, now let's find the parts that go together. So you can see this one with the little extra outside piece goes with the seat front that has a little extra outside piece. So here's our pins and our holes. So just kind of line those up. All right. And I'm just going to pinch them with my fingers. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to use our brush with glue like we did before. But let's see if I can get mine open again. All right. We're just going to, where these two pieces come together, you're just going to touch it ever so lightly with the glue. And we'll do it on this side. So up around the back where it touches, and along this edge. All right. And then down here. Okay. And we're gonna squeeze those together for a minute. Make sure that glue does its job. All right. So there's one. We'll do the same with the other. Put our two halves together. Make sure they're lined up good. Take our glue and just lightly brush it where those two pieces come together. So I don't know if you'll see it, but the glue will find its way into that gap, right? And it'll run in that gap. All right, so then we got this side. We're gonna touch it. All right, and we'll squeeze it together for a moment. Make sure the glue holds. All right, and now, see, I didn't hold it long enough. You might have to hold it a little longer than you think. I'm going to add just a little bit more glue. See this gap right here? We're going to add a little bit more glue there and try to squeeze that a little more. Close that gap. Now don't touch the glue with your fingers. You'll leave fingerprints in it. And fingerprints don't look right on a scale model. All right. There, that's better. All right, now we'll just set these aside with our dash panel. So you can set things aside for a little bit, take a little bit of a break, let it dry. I've taken all the parts that we intend to spray with the black spray paint and attached them to a piece of cardboard, a flattened box, just using masking tape that I rolled it back over on itself to give the sticky side out. All right, and everything is stuck down to the box. Now I'm going to take this outside on my back patio and spray it. And a couple things to remember. Try to do this in an area outside where there's not a lot of wind, where it's not too close to mom and dad's house or their cars or truck. And try to do it when it's above 55 degrees outside. And preferably a low humidity level, which I don't think you guys have real high humidity up there where you're at in Alaska anyway. But getting 55 degrees, that might take a couple of months before you get the opportunity to do that. And the other thing is, make sure that you shake up your paint can for a good couple of minutes. Make sure everything's stirred around real good inside that can. All right, so let's go out to the back patio and we'll spray it down. Okay, so I'm going to be using this Tamiya Paints, Tamiya Color TS6 Matte Black. Matte is almost the same as flat, okay? So the instructions call for a flat black. We're using matte black, but it's basically the same thing. All right, so let's get started. When you're spraying, you want to hold the can about 8 to 10 inches away from the parts you're spraying and do real light coats at first. Several light coats, not anything real heavy, because if you put it on heavy, it'll run, it'll drip. You'll get runs in the paint that you don't want. If you do it with light coats, every subsequent light coat will build up the color, and you won't have the runs and the drips. Okay, so let's try this. All right, now I need to turn this so I can get all sides. All right, see how I'm adding just real light coats? It's not covering everything all at one time. Okay, I'll turn it in. This way every side's getting some paint on it. Another turn. Now we may have to go in and look a little closer at pieces to make sure they got enough coverage. And we may have to spray them again, all right? All right, so there we've gone all the way around. Let's look and see what we got. It looks like maybe this interior tub, the back seats, might need another spray. If I can get this thing to focus, there we go. Yeah, that might need another spray on it. This side mirror doesn't quite have enough on it yet. Portions of the underside and these seats. All right, so we're gonna give them a little more color. Everything's got good coverage on it now. There's no light areas in that plastic that are showing through. So everything's got a good coat of the black on it. And we used almost this whole little can. There's not a whole lot left in here. So it's 100 milliliters net volume. There's probably 20 milliliters or less left in this can. So don't expect to get a whole lot out of these. All right, so we'll take this inside and we'll let it dry for a couple of days before we do our detail painting, especially on those door cards. Those need the detail. The dashboard needs some detail painting. And I'm not sure yet, maybe even this interior tub might need a little bit as well. All right,